Chronicles of Evimora, the Last Wingbeat of Vaelora. The storm moved. That was impossible. The great storm of Vaelora had raged above the eastern rainforests since before the Phelan tribes had separated from the Avasi. It had never weakened, never widened, never drifted so much as the length of a leaf. The Danu built their villages around its borders. Water Spri raised their young in the silver rivers pouring from its southern wall. Wind Spri raced its upper currents as a rite of adulthood. Generations had lived beneath the certainty that Vaelora would remain exactly where the world had placed it. Then, beneath the twin light of Evi and Mora, the storm took its first step. Its black wall rolled over the eastern horizon. Lightning crawled through it in violet veins. Clouds folded around one another, like muscles tightening beneath skin. Rain rose from the forest and flew upward to meet it. Every spree in the canopy stopped moving. Thousands of tiny wings fell silent. Saeli hovered beneath a crimson leaf, her body no longer than a Danu's hand. Her four wings looked as though they had been cut from shattered glass. Moonlight entered their broken patterns and emerged in jagged fragments across the wet branches. She stared at the moving storm. A sliver of violet crystal was trapped inside her upper right wing. It began to sing, not aloud. The vibration traveled through her bones and entered her mind as a memory, her sister's memory. Run, Saeli. Saeli's wings locked. The storm had spoken in Liora's voice. Around her, Spri erupted into motion. Meadow Spri rushed toward the nesting blossoms. Wood Spri disappeared into openings beneath the bark. Water Spri dove into flooded hollows to carry larvae and phorapods toward deeper streams. Above them, Wind Spri shot through the canopy in silver streaks. The storm has crossed the first rain path. The western nests are still full. Wake the mountain Spri. Where are the elders? It is moving toward the Heartbloom. That final thought silenced the others. At the center of the forest stood the Heartbloom Tree, older than any Danu settlement. Its crown rose high enough to pierce the clouds. Within its flowers slept nearly 3,000 unborn Spri, of every kind, from meadow Spri to mountain Spri, and 7 riven eggs whose wings had not yet decided how they wished to break. If the storm reached the Heartbloom, an entire generation would vanish before opening its eyes. A figure landed heavily beside Saeli. The branch bowed beneath him. Oren was a mountain Spri, nearly 3 feet tall, with broad wings shaped like overlapping slabs of dark stone. Crystalline ridges armored his shoulders and forearms. A hammer of condensed phora hung across his back. His telepathic voice entered Saeli's mind like 2 boulders grinding together. The elders are forming evacuation chains. Saeli looked toward the distant Heartbloom. They will never move the eggs in time. They know. Then why are we standing here? Because I was ordered to find you. Oren's eyes settled upon the violet shard inside her wing. The storm is calling your name. Another flash spread through the clouds. For an instant, Saeli saw a face inside them, Liora. Older than Saeli remembered her. Eyes closed, mouth open in a scream the thunder would not allow them to hear. Then darkness swallowed her again. Saeli flew toward the storm. Oren caught her around the waist with one enormous hand. Absolutely not. She twisted and struck his thumb. The blow accomplished nothing. My sister died inside Vaelora 14 cycles ago. Then the storm learned her voice 14 cycles ago. Or you are grieving so fiercely that you see her everywhere. Saeli's thoughts sharpened. Let me go. No! Her wings flared. The crystal patterns caught the moonlight. Saeli inhaled and released a single harmonic tone. Sehavi. The air between them fractured. One sound became 7. 7 became 49. Oren was struck by the same note from every direction. His grip loosened as invisible pressure slapped his wings, chest, chin, and knees. Saeli tore free. Unfortunately, one of the refracted nodes struck the branch. The wood twisted. Leaves became rigid blades. A cluster of red foliage launched into the air. Oren threw up both armored forearms. Leaves shattered against him in bursts of sap. A tiny laugh escaped Saeli. Ha! The sound touched the rain. Every droplet within 10 body lengths became weightless. Then they reversed. Water shot upward, taking Saeli with it. She tumbled through a rising column of rain. That was intelligent, Oren sent. Saeli righted herself and drove through the water. You can stay here and admire my intelligence. I'm coming because someone must survive long enough to complain about you. A streak of orange fire cut between them. A fire spree tore through the canopy, pursued by 3 creatures made entirely from rain. They resembled winged serpents, but their bodies continuously collapsed and reformed. Hollow faces appeared inside their heads whenever lightning flashed. The fire spree looked over her shoulder. Help! One of the serpents opened its mouth. A concentrated stream of rain punched through a tree trunk. Saeli folded her wings and dropped. The beam passed above her. Oren planted both feet on the branch, drew his hammer, and struck the wood. Drum! The vocalized spell entered the tree. Bark swelled around his legs. Roots burst from the branch, curving through the air like enormous fingers. They seized one serpent and squeezed. Water exploded outward. The other 2 split apart before the roots reached them. Each became 6 smaller creatures. Oren stared. I preferred one. The fire spree spun back toward them. She was slender, with ember-red skin and wings that burned along the edges without being consumed. Heat rippled around her fists. They formed when the storm crossed the river. Every wingbeat makes more of them. To prove her point, one serpent divided again as Saeli's wings struck the air. Saeli stopped flapping. She dropped like a stone. Oren caught her against his chest. I have you. You are enjoying this far too much. The rain creatures descended. The fire spree landed on Oren's shoulder and pressed both palms together. Kale, Vara, Thren. A white flame ignited between her hands. The first syllable heated the rain. The second pulled the vapor into a spiraling ring. The final sound detonated it. Steam blasted across the canopy. Serpents shrieked as their bodies dispersed, but the spell's final syllable struck Vaelora's advancing wall. The storm answered. Thunder erupted, not from above, from every tree. The entire forest groaned in Liora's voice. Saeli clutched her head. Saeli! The telepathic cry was not a memory. It came from within the storm. Her sister was alive, or something wearing what remained of her knew how to pretend. Oren felt it too. His suspicion became fear. The fire spree stared at Saeli. Who was that? Liora. The fire spree's expression changed. Everyone knew the name. 14 cycles earlier, when 7 young spree had been dragged into Vaelora by a broken current, Liora had flown after them alone. She saved 6. The 7th survived only long enough to say that Liora had been pulled into the center of the storm. Her body was never recovered. Only one piece of her wing returned. The shard now carried inside Saeli's own. The fire spree extended a hand. I am Kaiva. Saeli took it. You were heading toward the Heartbloom? I was trying to. The storm creatures have filled the upper canopy. Oren lifted his hammer. Then we used the ground. The forest floor split open beneath them. Wood spree led the evacuation through the roots. Their tunnels were alive. Narrow passages formed as trees bent their inner fibers aside. Glowing insects clung to walls slick with phora sap. Saeli flew low between Oren and Kaiva. They passed meadow spree, carrying eggs wrapped in petals. Night spree vanished into shadows and emerged farther ahead, moving supplies through darkness faster than wings could carry them. A water spree stood waist-deep in a flooded chamber, shaping the current into a rising spiral. Eggs floated within it, protected inside spheres of clear water. The tunnel shook, dust fell, then the rain began underground. Drops appeared in empty air. They fell upward. A wood spree looked toward the ceiling. The storm has reached the roots. The first black tendril punched through the wall. It was not water. It was absence shaped like water. Where it touched the tunnel, bark lost its color. Fora dimmed. Living wood became gray and brittle. More tendrils followed. Spree scattered. Oren struck one with his hammer. The weapon passed through, and darkness wrapped around his arm. He grunted. Ugh! The accidental sound struck the narrow tunnel. The walls contracted. Roots snapped inward. Kaiva was caught around the waist. Saeli was slapped from the air and slammed against the ceiling. Oren's grunt traveled deeper into the tree, growing heavier with every chamber it crossed. Somewhere ahead, wood collapsed with a deafening crack. The evacuation path, someone cried telepathically. Saeli pushed herself upright. The black tendril crawled toward Oren's shoulder. She landed on his arm and pressed both hands against it. Her wings opened around his wrist. Shy, Raven. The spell was barely louder than breath. Moonlight spilled from her wings. Each fracture refracted the tone differently. One note became a lattice of thin vibrations that sliced through the tendril from hundreds of angles. Darkness came apart in strips, but Saeli's upper right wing cracked. The violet shards shifted deeper. Pain shot down her spine. A cry escaped her. Ah! The tunnel heard it. Sap erupted from the walls. The amber fluid formed long, needle-like growths and launched toward every moving body. Oren turned his armored back toward the others. Needles struck him by the hundreds. Kaiva swept both arms outward. Varzosia! A wall of fire ignited. Sap flashed into burning gold. Flames raced through the root chamber. Wood Spree screamed inside the shared mind. The Heartbloom! Fire will travel through the roots! Kaiva's eyes widened. She closed both fists. The flames refused to stop. Her spell had found too much living fora. It was feeding. Saeli launched herself through the burning chamber. Heat blistered her skin. She spread all four wings directly inside the fire. What are you doing? Kaiva demanded. Give me the spell. You cannot hold it. I do not need to hold it. Saeli opened her mouth. Aelus. The tone entered the fire. Her wings caught Kaiva's spell and split it. The wall of flame broke into hundreds of narrow streams. Saeli turned in the air, directing each through a separate fracture in her wings. Fire curved around the eggs, around the fleeing spree, around every living root. The streams converged upon the black tendrils. Darkness burned violet. The storm recoiled. For one impossible moment, the tunnel opened into a view of Vaelora's heart. Saeli saw a spiral of clouds wrapped around a hollow center. Inside that hollow floated thousands of motionless spree. Some had been there for generations. Their wings beat without moving. Their eyes remained closed. Each wingbeat pushed the storm forward. And at the center hovered Liora. Branches of lightning ran through her body. Her wings had grown vast, stretching across the eye like cracked windows. She opened her eyes. You must not let me reach the Heartbloom. Then the tunnel sealed. The fire died. Saeli dropped. Oren caught her again. This time she did not object. The Heartbloom Tree was already under attack when they arrived. Its white crown filled the sky. Each flower was large enough to shelter a Danu child. Thousands of unopened blossoms glowed with the sleeping fora of unborn spree. The storm towered behind it. Rain creatures filled the air. Wind spree fought in spiraling formations, singing sharp tones that bent currents into blades. Water Spri drew streams from the canopy and hurled them upward as transparent whips. Fire Spri became streaks of orange light, cutting through creatures before the rain could extinguish them. Mountain Spri clung to the trunk, driving stone anchors into the bark. Wood Spri commanded branches like limbs. Meadow Spri surrounded the nesting flowers, their songs blooming walls of thorn and pollen. It was beautiful. It was hopeless. Every spell disturbed the air. Every disturbance fed the storm. For each rain creature destroyed, 2 more descended from the clouds. A massive shape formed above the Heartbloom. It had Liora's face. Its body was a column of rotating storm clouds. 6 wings spread across the sky. Lightning poured from its open mouth. Saeli stared upward. "That is not my sister." The creature looked directly at her. "No." Liora's true voice entered Saeli's mind from somewhere beneath it. "It is what the storm made from my refusal to die." The storm creature screamed. The vocal sound struck the air like a hammer. The Heartbloom's upper branches bent flat. Spri were thrown from the sky. Several nesting flowers tore loose. Saeli saw one tumble toward the forest floor, with 9 eggs inside. She dove. Orun jumped from the trunk after her, his stone wings folded around his body. Kaiva became a spear of flame. The flower spun beneath them. Saeli reached it first and wrapped both arms around the stem. The weight dragged her downward. Orun struck the ground before them. "Gore! Stone rose in 2 enormous hands. They caught the falling flower. The impact drove Orun to one knee. The ground split beneath him. Kaiva landed beside the eggs and threw a ring of fire around them as rain creatures descended. Saeli released the flower. Her damaged wing flickered. She could no longer rise. Orun saw it. "Your wing. Later." "There may not be a later. Then it is an excellent time to stop discussing it." A rain serpent struck. Saeli rolled beneath its jaws and drove both hands into its translucent throat. The creature carried her across the ground, twisting violently. She held on. Her wings opened inside its body. "Rivayan! Shah!" The creature burst outward in a spinning wheel of water. The spell cracked her damaged wing from base to tip. Saeli hit the earth. The violet shard tore loose. It landed in the mud before her. Lightning illuminated it. Inside the fragment, Liora stood beneath a clear sky. Not the real Liora. A memory preserved by Fora. She was laughing. Saeli remembered the day. They had climbed above the rain path to watch Evie and Mora rise together. Saeli had been too young to control her riven wings. Every burst of laughter had refracted through them and shaken leaves from distant trees. Liora had laughed harder each time. The memory turned towards Saeli. "You keep carrying the moment I left." Saeli crawled toward the shard. "Because it is all I have of you." "No, it is all you refuse to release." The storm descended around the Heartbloom. Every spree trapped inside it beat their wings. Thousands of stolen wingbeats. The air trembled. The tree began to uproot. Saeli closed her hand around the shard. "Tell me how to stop it." Liora's preserved memory smiled sadly. "The storm moves forward because none of us inside it were allowed to finish falling." Saeli understood. Vaelora had captured Spri at the instant between flight and death. Their final wingbeats had never ended. A storm made from unfinished motion could not remain still forever. "What do I do?" "Give us a final beat." Saeli looked at her shattered wings. "I cannot reach the eye." Orun stepped beside her. His armor was cracked. One wing hung broken against his back. "You do not have to." Kaiva landed on Saeli's opposite side, fire leaking from wounds along her arms. "We will take you." Wind Spri gathered overhead. Water Spri rose from the flooded roots. Mountain Spri released their anchors. Fire Spri lowered their flames. Night, meadow, desert, and wood Spri turned toward the tiny Riven standing in the mud. No words were spoken, none were needed. Every mind touched hers. Thousands of Spri lifted Saeli with their combined fora. She rose without beating her wings. The storm creature saw her. Lightning filled its mouth. Oren threw his hammer. It spun through the air and struck the creature's jaw, turning its head as the lightning erupted. The blast sheared the Heartbloom's crown, but missed the nesting flowers. Kaiva flew directly into the storm creature's chest. Kael Vara Thren! Her body became white fire. She burned a tunnel through the clouds. Wind Spri entered behind her. Their voices rose together. Ci, Val, Ora! The tunnel widened. Water Spri spiraled around the opening, binding rain into a rotating wall. Mountain Spri sang from below. Drum, drum, drum! Each tone struck the sky like an upward falling boulder. The storm creature reached for Saeli. Night Spri appeared along its arm, cutting shadow from shadow. Wood Spri sent living vines through the rain, wrapping the creature's fingers. Meadow Spri released clouds of golden pollen that burst into flowers wherever lightning touched them. Saeli entered Vaelora. The world vanished. There was no rain inside, no wind, only wingbeats, millions of them. She floated among trapped Spri from forgotten generations, tiny meadow Spri, towering mountain elders, fire Spri whose embers had faded to blue, Riven Spri whose glass wings had become almost transparent. At the center waited Liora. Her body was thin. Lightning showed through her skin. Her enormous broken wings filled the eye. Saeli reached for her. Their hands touched. "I knew you would come," Liora said. "I am taking you home." Sadness moved through Liora's mind. Not sharp, not frightened. The deep sadness of someone who had already accepted what another could not. "I have been home, little shard." Images flooded Saeli. The 6 children Liora had saved. Their lives, their families, the songs they had sung beneath the moons, the Spri they had later protected because she had once protected them. Home is not always the place we return to, Liora told her. Sometimes it is what continues because we did not. The storm tightened. Outside, thousands of Spri screamed telepathically as the Heartbloom began to tear from the ground. Liora placed a hand against Saeli's damaged wing. The storm needs one final wingbeat. Saeli looked at the countless trapped Spri. Then we give it one. She raised the violet shard. Liora covered Saeli's hand with her own. Together, they drew one breath. The vocal spell began as a whisper. Shah. Every trapped Spri opened its eyes. Liora. Their wings drew backward. Vael. The storm creature outside froze. Every drop of rain stopped. Every bolt of lightning became a motionless fracture across the sky. Saeli felt Liora's hand slipping through hers. She tried to hold tighter. "No. Saeli, no. I just found you." Liora touched her forehead to Saeli's. "You found me 14 cycles ago. You simply kept looking, because goodbye felt too much like losing." Saeli's thoughts broke. "I cannot fly without you. You were never flying with me." Liora smiled. "You were flying while carrying my weight." Their final syllable entered the world. Thael! Every trapped Spri beat its wings once, one final time. The sound was not thunder. It was softer than breath. Yet every tree across the rainforest bowed. The storm reversed. Clouds folded inward. Rain flew upward. Lightning withdrew into the darkness from which it had come. The creature with Liora's face opened its mouth, but its scream flowed backward into its throat. Vaelora retreated across the horizon, not moving in reverse. Unhappening. Each trapped spree dissolved into a trail of fora light. Thousands of colors filled the sky. Saeli held Liora as her body began to break apart. "Stay until I cannot see you," Saeli begged. "I will stay longer than that." Liora's wings became light, then her hands, then her face. Her final thought entered Saeli alone. "When you miss my wingbeat, listen to your own." The violet shard shattered. So did Saeli's wings. Light filled the eye of the storm, and Vaelora disappeared. Saeli awoke beneath the Heartbloom. The storm was gone. Rain fell normally through the canopy. Above her, thousands of spree carried the rescued nesting flowers back into the tree. Oren sat nearby, both wings bound against wooden splints. Kaiva lay asleep inside a ring of warm ash. Saeli tried to move her wings. Nothing answered. She turned her head. Only 4 small ridges remained along her back, lined with colorless fragments. The world blurred. Her telepathic grief escaped before she could veil it. Every spree in the Heartbloom heard. The work stopped. One by one they descended. Fire spree, water spry, mountain and meadow, night, desert, wind and wood. They gathered until the branches bent beneath their weight. No one told Saeli that her sacrifice had been worth it. No one told her she should be grateful to be alive. No one tried to make the loss smaller. They simply opened their wings. Thousands of wingbeats filled the Heartbloom. The sound passed through Saeli's body. For a moment, she could not bear it. Then beneath the multitude, she felt one beat unlike the others. Familiar, warm, laughing. Saeli closed her eyes. Liora was gone, but what continued because of her was everywhere. Saeli wept until she could no longer see the moons. The spree remained, and when the 7 riven eggs opened 3 nights later, the newborns emerged with glass-like wings, unlike any seen before. Each carried one violet fragment, not a memory, not a prison, a beginning. From that cycle onward, whenever a spree was lost before finishing their final flight, the others gathered beneath Evi and Mora and beat their wings once in farewell. They called it the Liora beat, and Saeli, who never flew again, became the first spree to teach an entire generation how to cross the sky without wings.